that's odd. I was just about to say I didn't have it down what I wanted, but I found it, so never mind. And what I'm going to do right now is just add of extra detailing where these roof tiles are. That's what I meant. Just realised I'm not wearing my glasses either again, which is annoying. So I'm going to use some more of this fix and grout that I like to use. And I'm just going to spread some, if I can avoid putting it on the roof itself, I'm just going to spread some just in the gap between the ridge tile and the tiles, so I've masked that area off. And I'm just delaying the inevitable here because I'm going to have to go in my finger, I think, just to smooth it in properly. Just using a sliver of Foamex for the time being. I've already done the other side of this gable, so I'll spread some in very carefully. Hopefully you can see, and I've already masked off the other side, so I'm just going to lean over and add that. I will have to go and get my glasses because I've realised I cannot see a thing. I wear two pairs of glasses, one for distance and one for close-up. I've just been out driving and forgot to swap when I started work. And I've left them outside in the kitchen. Whoops. I need to try and pick that up now without smearing it over the roof. There we go. I've put too much on. Okay, so with my finger I'm just going to smooth that in. Hello Friday, I've not seen you for ages either. Nice to see you again. It's nice to see you again. Sorry, I've just been leaning over the camera so I can't quite see what I'm doing. Right, so before I take that masking tape back off again, I'm just going to use this Citadel Karak stone. You've had a baby, oh congratulations. I bet it's been busy, hasn't it? So while it's still wet, because I don't really mind that it's not dry yet, it'll just blend in. I'm just going to paint a streak of sort of cement colour into that patch there. I can vaguely remember what it was like to have a newborn around my house. So this kind of work, if I had youngsters, or at least not as much of it anyway, you have to wait until bedtime. This is another commission, yes, it's getting towards the finishing stages now. Thank you, yes, this is a lovely chap that lives in, I keep saying south of France, but it's actually more central France. So it's kind of in mid-France, in a lovely little town called Le Puy. And they're lucky enough to have a beautiful French chateau. I have to say that with an accent. Now I've probably got a bit too much on there that's coming off on the paintbrush, so what I'll need to do is just use my finger to I'm going to blame not having glasses on for not being able to see it properly. The tripod in a slightly higher place than normal, so I'm having to lean over it as well, which doesn't help. But it's stuttering there. This model is it's quite large. I need to be further away from the camera needs to be further away and higher up to be able to capture it. And so I end up having to lean over. It does dry quite quickly this, so I need to work quick. Alright, so now I've filled and painted, I'll just take the masking tape back off again. This is a special modeller's masking tape, which does a bit better of a job. Let me see if I can just zoom in on that. It's not easy because the camera's fixed, it can't. I'll just take it off the tripod and do some steady cam action. So that's just showing you the line there on the roof line that I've just put in. It just finishes off that ridge. Oops, we're all gone shaky. And this isn't the best of camera holders because it doesn't have as much flexibility. So I think I've ended up further away than I was. Never mind. Oops. Just come off satisfyingly smoothly. Oops, we've just pulled away a bit of the flashing there. I'll just have to put a little bit of glue underneath there to stick it back down again. Okay, so that's covered those two sides. Now, like I say, I've just got the reverse of this gable to do now. Let me see if I can just twist everything around so we can see that there. Lost my masking tape then. So I only want a little thin strip. Not quite enough to finish, I just misjudged cutting that, didn't I? Oops, sorry guys. Good evening Nan, sorry I didn't see you there, thank you for the gift. Very kind. I should just finish there. I don't know if you can just see on the other side. Sorry, masking tape in my mouth. You can just see on the other side, that's the bit I did the other night. Off camera, sorry. Except I'm going to keep hitting you by accident. I'll follow the line of the ridge all the way, just to mask that off. I only want to put a thin sliver of filler and paint in that hole. Hole, it's not really a hole, is it? It's a gap. Usually, Friday, I usually work in 1/76 scale, which is model railway scale. But this one, because it's a bit, well, because it's got quite a lot of detail into it, I suggested to my client that this would work much better in 1/50 scale. So it's still quite small, relatively speaking, but it's a much bigger scale than, it's a bigger scale than 1/76, so it allows for a bit better detail. So this is kind of like, it's almost double. Well, it's not really, is it? 1/76, 1/50. It's, what is it, like 25% bigger? Sorry, not double. It's considerably bigger. But I wanted to be able to show them the additional details. Which, I mean, 1/76 scale's great, but sometimes you have to take a bit of a compromise in detailing because things are a bit small. So I was just looking to see if I had anything handy which showed like the relative difference in scale, but it's on the shelf behind me. Let me just your wife wants to charge you with making houses, eh? Oh, we're about to get cat bombed. Hello, Bella. I'm afraid I don't need any additional help, but the offer's very kind. Does that little bit of tape look very interesting? The minions are excellent, aren't they? I think I will, I think at some point I'll watch that, but I don't think I'll get a chance to watch it at the cinema. She does like a bit of quality control, does my Bella. Right, now just take that tape back off very carefully. and then I can remove the temptation for it to nibble at it. I've realised that in shot is part of my tripod there, but phone holder. We'll just have to live with that for the moment. There we go, it's just a very small line. Was that good enough, Bella? Did it come off quite nicely? Just don't eat the plants, will you? I mean, it's kind of cute, but you do get a bit worried when she's near delicate things. Are you just passing through? That's the sound of my phone holder moving. I'm just going to come over here. And whilst I'm up on the roof, I'm just going to paint these chimney pots with a tan colour. This is using some modelling acrylic paint. Good evening. Sorry, I'm just going to have to cover the camera a minute. Catzilla indeed, yes. I do plan on making something Hot Wheels scaled at some point. I do have a... Oops, sorry for the squeezy noise. I do have a barn find plan. I've already drawn up the plans to make the barn. It's going to be the subject of a YouTube video at some point, I just haven't got around to it. So like I said, this is a nice clay colour which will do for colouring the chimney pots. Now these chimney pots, really simple. What I've done is taken I've taken a length of bamboo skewer, you know, the sort of kebab skewers for barbecuing, and I have wrapped a strip of self-adhesive paper around it numerous times until I've got a reasonable thickness, and then I've added a tiny strip right across the top to make a sort of a ridge effect, and then I've carefully eased the paper back off the bamboo stick, so I've just got the paper so it's hollow throughout. And then once I've done that, I've just super glued it in place onto the chimney stack, and then just to make sure the paper holds fast, you know, sticks to itself properly, I've just coated it with a thin layer of PVA glue just to make sure it all holds together. It gives it a bit of extra stiffness as well. So I'm just using some cheap from the craft store acrylic paint here. And when that's dry, I'll give it a wash of black oil just to weather it down and to sort of fill in the interior. I'll just blend it into the top of the chimney stack a bit more. It's a bit difficult seeing all the way around it without actually getting up, and I've obviously crashed into my holder there with the chair. I've still got a couple chimney pots to make. I've also got to fix the cowl on this one, which has come off through probably sticking it on a bit too early and ended up knocking it. There are certain things that I really should leave until last minute detailing. She's intrigued by me washing the brushes. Alright, so having done that task, I need to move around to the last bit of roof. Let's see if I can turn this now. You really need to be off the table, Bella. Okay, so I need to do the same across these two roof lines now. And I have to cut that too short, so I'll have to put it on this one. Thank you, Georgia. This is I can't remember exactly what brand it was now. I got it from Amazon. It's a modeller's masking tape, so it sticks really quite flat, but it also peels off quite nicely. You can get some really good tapes, branded tapes from Tamiya or Tamiya. I don't know how you pronounce that. I've always pronounced it Tamiya, but I've seen other model makers or heard other model makers pronounce it Tamiya. Anyway, the model making brand, they do a really nice modelling masking tape. It's designed for sort of thinner areas of masking, but it's also designed, because it's designed for model making, it has a sort of a better sticking quality, and it's fairly low tack, so it's designed to be able to sort of come off. But I would much rather use this kind of tape for these jobs than your sort of traditional decorator's masking tape, for fear of, or for the more reliability of it coming back off again without pulling the underlying work off. Oops, there's a big lump of filler just come off there. Like I say, I need to be careful. If any bits drop down, I need to be careful how I pick it up without smooshing it onto the work previously done. I just need to snip that off so I can see what I'm doing underneath. Yeah, I probably have finished this project a couple of weeks ago had I not messed around with redoing roofs. But it wouldn't be a Lee project, would it, without being unhappy with the roof at least once. And I really have to do this side by doing it one side at a time, because otherwise the masking tape's going to get in the way. So I'll do the same routine. Should have got myself a drink before I started, shouldn't I? So I'll do the same routine. I'll put the filler on, apply a coat of paint, mixing it in with the filler as we go, so it just changes its consistency a little bit. When I say filler, it's not strictly filler, it's tile grout. And if you put it on quite thinly, it dries in no time. But I don't need to wait for it to dry before painting it, because the two will sort of dry together. I mean, it is, after all, the very faintest sliver. Yes. Well, I'd use a hairdryer in other cases, but there's no real need for it to. There's no real need for me to wait for it to dry. Oops, you notice that it's started to lift those tiles up a little. Which is what I didn't want to happen. It just might need a little bit of glue teasing underneath there at some point. I'm going I wouldn't actually get anything done if I'm forever waiting for paint to dry. There we go. It's the very faintest of lines. It is visible though, so it's worth doing. It just finishes off the joint between the roof tiles and the, the ridge tile. Thank you, Ken. So now I've just got the other side of this to do, and then that's that section done. My next plan is to dry brush the roadway and then get some little bits of greenery stuck in there. So, now this is not the best of angles to be able to work at because I really can't get to it so well, so we'll just have to see how we go. I do want to add a little bit more dry brush detail to the tiling all throughout. That's what I was going to do next, not the roadway. I was going to start just adding a little bit of weathering to the roof. I've done a little bit already, but I just want to start adding a little bit more. So there's a little bit of sort of orange and green kind of staining to some of the roof tiles in places, so I want to start adding a little bit of that. I mean, it's one thing that they want certain aspects of this to look kind of perfect, but in another, I think things like roofs really come to life in terms of adding character when you start weathering it down a bit. I'm going to do not both of these together, I'll do one then the other. This one's the easiest one. I should have started with the hardest one to start off. I should have started off with the harder one. It's the easiest one to get to without too much reaching. It has been going really well. I've just got a little bit which has started to peel off here. Yeah, I think I've satisfactorily rescued that bit. So now to the bit I can't really reach properly. I'm just trying to get hold of it with a pair of tweezers to help me out. Whoops. You'll have to have a little earthquake for a moment. And my arm in the way. No easy way to do this without getting my arm in the way. I think the cat wants out. She's had enough of quality control. I'm just going to try leaning over now so I can't see the screen. Oops, excuse me. Right, I'll just stick this down and then I'll go and let the cat out of the room and see if I can find my glasses. painless. That's Bella gone. Ginny's still in here, but she's settled into a corner. She's not too fussed. So if anybody's asking questions or querying at the moment, I'm afraid I can't see because I'm stood above the camera position. Phone position, I can't see the phone. Right, so there's just the paint strip to apply now. There we go. Rinse the brush. I'll put the brush in some water. Now, my better direction of taking the strip off is this way, towards the camera, because it runs the least risk of peeling the tiles up. So try to get it flat as we pull, and there we go. One. Now the top one is more solid, so that should just come off. And there we go, a nice neat ridge tile backfill. Quite happy with. So what I'm going to do now is a little bit of weathering. A little bit more weathering, so rotate the whole model back round again. Now I'm going to try and just swap tripods for the moment so we don't have that great big ridge in the way. There we go, we're just a little bit closer in. Okay, could have done with bringing myself another piece of kitchen roll. I'm just going to go get another piece of kitchen roll. I've just got a piece of kitchen roll to dry my brush out with, because I'm going to do a bit of dry brushing. So, like the name suggests, it needs a dry brush. Okay, so what did I do with the paintbrush that I had earlier? Somehow I've managed to lose it. Lost the switch to a different one. Okay, so this is a dry brush. It's actually a base brush, but it'll do as a dry brush. So I'm going to use, initially, some grey for the roof. I just want to whiten bits off on the roof. So this is a Citadel paint called Celestra Grey. There's not an awful lot of it left now. Just want to put a little bit on the brush, and then I'm just going to brush most of the excess off. You'll just have to take my word for it that that's what I've done. That first application was a little bit thick, but it'll do as a little bit of staining. I just want to go over it in patches now and just start dry brushing it. Hopefully you can see the difference that it's making. There's one thing I've missed off so far, which I will come back to, but I need to put a little bit of a chimney, like a stovepipe type device, on that wall. And every time, on that roof, sorry, and every time I look at my reference photos, it reminds me. I think, right, I need to do that, and then I forget again. Are you looking for plants to go up your, what scale did you say? 12 scale? Well, you could have a go at making your own, or I think for 8th scale you might actually be able to source a supplier. But I mean, nothing beats having a go at making your own. Although 8th scale you have to be a little bit more accurate. Scale. Sorry, did I misread that? Yeah, 12 scale. Sorry. Even so, 12 scale, you're still a little bit more, well, it's a heck of a lot more detailed than at 1/50th. I wouldn't know what to suggest at the top of my head. Well, the plants that I've got on the climbing plants that I've got on here, if you have a look at my YouTube, oh, it's gone. I used to have a little sticker that had my YouTube. My YouTube is at LNR Models, no gaps. I can't remember which episode it is now. It might actually be the most recent one, but there is a video. It's a live download from this. It's probably from about 3 nights ago, I think. But there is a long form video. It's not a full tutorial as such, but you do see me making it from start to finish. But yeah, it's on my YouTube channel how I made these. I'm going to stick that back down again, I think. I don't want to get too obsessed with that corner. But I am going to be making a wisteria plant for this other side. If I don't get cracking on it tonight, it will certainly be in the next couple of days. Good afternoon, Corey. How are you doing, fella? Yes, I'm looking forward to doing the wisteria plant. I've already made the petals for it, or should I say I've already coloured the sawdust that I'm going to use to make the petals with. I'm still not convinced about the colour, but that can always be adjusted. After I've stuck them on, I can, just add a different colour with a spot of glue. Not glue, I'm talking rubbish now. A spot of acrylic paint. So I'm just going over with some light grey randomly, and then once I'm happy enough with the light grey dry brushing that I've put on, I'm going to go over with a little bit of orange and green to represent different kinds of mould and lichen that are starting to form in places. Thank you for the gift, Kenny. How's it going? So I'm just scrubbing my brush clear of most of the paint. Have we had a hobby weekend? Have we been hobbying? You've got Make It Monday. Oh, very good. That sounds excellent. I like the idea of that. Just caught you again, didn't I? I have done a couple of bits of polymer clay, but yeah, on the whole it is a bit too fiddly, to be honest. Yeah, it's quite. I've tried to like make chimney pots and things out of it before, but it's yeah, it's just that little bit too fiddly, like you say. There's no other word for it really, because you don't have that delicate control. Although I'm saying that I think with a bit more practice, because I've not used it an awful lot, I think with a bit more practice I could probably get better results. But you probably need a magnifying glass. Nothing beats a nice little running session and a visit to a railway. I think I actually saw part of the live that you were doing, but unfortunately I couldn't call in and properly view. I was just in the middle of something else. I just happened to be browsing. So I'm going to use an old can't focus. An old brush here that's got the ends a bit manked up. They just become a little bit clogged. Oops. So I'm just going to dip the tip into some orange paint, and then like the dry brush, I'll just pat most of the paint off till there's hardly any left, and then I'm just going to stipple it on in places on the roof, causing the camera to shake. It's been a make it weekend for me, really. I spent a long time yesterday just faffing, and I made a couple of laser cut grass plants. It took me ages to do, but I had a sort of a sudden epiphany of how I could use the laser cutter to good effect, and I quickly designed some grass shapes on the laser, cut them out, and then started to make some plants. That's excellent. I like the idea. So I don't know if you can just see. You can't really. I just made some grasses there. There is a picture, I think, on my Instagram that shows that better. But maybe once I finish stippling this, I can show you back in the garden. I also made a laser cut shrub there, which it took me about 2 hours, I think, to make. You know, for such a sort of small thing, it took a long time. But I just took advantage of the fact that nobody else was pestering me to do anything, no jobs around the house or anything. So whilst everyone else was being quiet and snoozing, napping, doing their own thing, whatever, I just sat in here and made some plants. So I have a bit, like I say, I have a bit more stippling to do over the roof. In places, and then I've got to dry brush the roadway. Like I say, I do have the wisteria bush to make as well, which is going to take a bit of time. So I think it's probably not a good job, not an ideal job to sort of try and start and finish tonight. I want to try and make a YouTube video out of it, so I need to sort of concentrate on the procedure. So now I'm just going to add a little bit of green into that as well. I think I might actually come back and do a bit more of that off camera, because it's probably going to take a little bit of time to go through and stipple everything the way I want it. I'm just going to reach over to the very back because I've spotted something on that back wall that just needs a little touching up. I've been model making for about 15 years now, but sort of on a professional level for about 5. So here we can see these are the grasses that I made yesterday. If I can just zoom in a little bit better. So these are some grass plants that I've put in, and this here is it's not a great angle to show, that's the plant that I made. I spent ages trying to airbrush this, but it wasn't coming out brilliantly. So I could actually do with just darkening off a little. Now it's all stuck down. So basically I made loads and loads of strips of sort of pointed grass and glued the very bases together. And once it was dry, I was able to sort of plant it in place and then tease the strips apart a bit, so it created these kind of grasses. Well, thanks for dropping by Friday. It was nice to see you. I hope you have. I hope you managed to get it settled and can enjoy a little bit of peace. got an abundance of brushes in here. I think the one that I was using for dry brushing earlier, yeah, I've actually stuck in the brush. Sorry, the water. So I'll pan round. I've still got to paint the fascia better, but for now it's bare. I need to get some. I need to get some dark paint to paint the fascia with. Okay, I've just dried my brush off a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is use some grey to cover the road. I'm actually just going to very quickly experiment with some pigment powder before I go any further. I want to change the colour of the pathway, which is quite dark. So I've got some, I can persuade that to go up the roof, sorry, the wall a little. I need to put some planting in there. Now, just seeing very quickly while I'm at that, that the little bit of shuttering work that's at the back there is starting to peel off. So if I can just slip a little bit of super glue behind there, push it back down. Thanks for dropping it by. Yeah, so like I say, I just need to add a little bit of pale pigment powder onto this bit of paved area. I'll just bring the tone back again. This light is really harsh and it's showing up a lot paler than it actually is. Just see if I can get a slightly better colour temperature going on with my light. Oh, it's better for you but not for me. So here we go. It's funny the shade and the camera point, but it might just be my camera that's showing up like that. I'll just brush a little bit of dust up onto the door there. And this is a pigment powder from Vallejo. And this brush is actually a little bit too stiff for what I'm doing here, so I'm going to try and get a softer brush. It's not much better, but the tips of it, the very tip of it is a bit softer. It does actually blend into the road surface quite nicely, so I might just continue using that to lighten it off. It's kind of a similar effect to the dry brushing with paint here, except it's a dry pigment. It's kind kind of like a dust. My light in here is making that surface appear a lot brighter than it actually is in reality. It is a good idea to keep them out of direct sun. It shouldn't affect the structural integrity of it as such, but things tend to get a bit brittle, sort of thinner things. So things like roofing tiles that have been stuck on can, over time, start to peel away if it's not stuck down firm enough. It all depends on what you've used, but yeah, it's always a good idea to keep models out of direct sunlight, no matter how, whether they're strong or fragile. I've had things that I've had in the garage that I've been a bit, things that of my own that I've had in the garage that I've become a little bit careless about, that I've sort of forgotten that I've left there, and over time things have peeled away. I mean, part of that is the fact that I was using methods that I don't use anymore, but it's like with everything, keep things out of it's a good practice to keep things out of direct sun or out of extremes of temperature. And for showcase models like this, I always recommend that they have a protective acrylic case, which both protects the model itself and protects the models from sort of wandering hands, and also protects it from things falling on it, etc. Keeps the dust off it. Dust is a primary kind of consideration. So ideally, when this is all done, I need to mask off those windows and then give the area a coating of matte varnish just to protect it. When it comes to adding a pigment, you can be really quite vicious with it. It's also a lot of fun starting to bring a little bit of texture into the scene. I'm quite happy with the way that walkway is looking right now, so I'll just do this last bit that's in the foreground up here. get a bit carried away with the pigment application. I want to try and shift to another colour in a minute, but before I do that, I'm going to have to come around to the other part which has got some roadway on it. And we'll come down here. This is one of my favourite little bits. On Friday night I laser cut a little road grill. Seems ages ago since I made all the windows for this section now. Well, it actually was, but it just shows how long I've been working on this. Weeks kind of blur together. Hi Sarah, how are you tonight? Good greetings. Yeah, it's been pretty good, thank you. I've done a lot more model making work. It's been quite quiet. I've just remembered, you've just reminded me just by saying that I've left the washing out. Although it's not raining, I'm really going to have to bring it in before I forget about it. So I'm going to add a little bit of slate grey now, which is a bit darker. So that should blend in with the lighter grey that we've got on the roadway and just produce a nice matte surface for the tarmac. off. Oops, tripod slipped. I keep calling it a tripod, it's just a phone holder. I'll just switch to a different colour now, again for the roadway. Sorry, not for the roadway, for the pathway. This is light sienna. Just to add a little bit more tone. Now I want to add a little bit of greenery onto the side of the road there, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Sorry, I'm going to add a little bit of scenic foam, which I'll need to apply with some glue. So if I can find my wood glue, I'm going to use a little bit of PVA. I'll just put a little bit down on this rough piece of card that I've got to hand, and then strategically I'm just going to paint some bits of glue right against the edge of the wall there. Between the wall and the pavement. So not everywhere, but just enough to suggest a little bit of weed growth right in the corners. And I just want to sprinkle a little bit of scenic foam, so this stuff here, just into the areas where I've put some glue down. I just tease it in with my finger. It's not easy to place in such small places, small areas. Once that's glued in place, I can then just gently brush the excess away. So we're just wanting to suggest a little bit of vegetation, weeds growing right against the little cracks in the paving areas and against the walls. Not everything's always pristine, and I think just adding these little bits of greenery just helps to lift it from being monotone. I'll just put some up by that gate there before I move down the road. So there's a lot of artistic license been used in this area, because obviously the road continues on with another, it's actually another gateway for another house here. So I've just left that little bit open, just as a sort of framing area. So it suggests that's where the gateway is, but it just leaves it open so I'm not going right to the edge of the board. And I just want to put a bit of, whoops, my arm in the way, a bit of vegetation just to mask that little area there. I made the cat jump. Come down the street a little. Sorry about all the creaking. I really need to get some oil on my chair, I think. Yeah, I'm sorry about watching sideways, that I can get a lot more of this scene on camera, and also it gives me some footage that I can use. It's really for my benefit why I'm sideways. I know a lot of people find it irritating, and I probably lose a lot of viewers that way, but it's just the way I prefer to work, I'm afraid. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Sinatra. How are you doing? Want to go out? Go on. Put a slightly different colour foam here to represent a bit more bigger growth. bit's a bit unused. Keep it more liberal with the glue around that part. Oops. So just there we go. That'll do for that section. I suppose really I need to just finish off around the corner as well. Oops, there goes the backdrop again. It's just got stuck on the edge of the model. So this bit's very much artistic license because there's actually a building here that I've just decided to leave off. Although it was with discussion with the client, but we decided we were going to leave this bit off because it was going to get a bit too big otherwise. So here we've just got a little bit of, I'm just going to suggest that the foliage, the weeds growing around the edge of the model base, just a bit more weedy. Like I say, there's actually a building here in real life. Let's just put that foam back in its tube. I'm going to try and rehang my backdrop, it's just got snagged. There we go, that's a bit better. Sorry about all the rustling around. Same to you, Georgia. Thank you very much for popping by. Lovely to see you again, or well, to hear from you anyway, because we don't see, literally, do we? So. See you later. I'm just adding a bit more darker pigment here. Thank you for gifting, very kind of you. I'm trying to think what I'm going to do next now. I think it's, like I say, I think it's too late to add the wisteria bush. Starting to develop a few nice camera angles now. It's fun, like I say, it's really funny about the lighting. This is way too light on screen here, but it is a lot better in reality. Sorry, I'm just having a think. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I think what I'm going to try and do is make a chimney for a section that's missing. I don't know how well that's going to go. So I've got some bits on this this sheet here. In fact, there is one bit that I can just add right now. It's a little bit of a window guard that I've made. I had completely forgotten all about it. I just have to look on my thing to see where it's attached. It's going to be quite tricky to get out. I really need a new sharp scalpel, to be honest, because that one's it's got glue and all sorts stuck to it, so it's not sharp enough. But I want to try and take that out and then glue it in place. But I do have a little sort of chimney to try and make. I'm not sure how successful I'm going to be. Doesn't help that I haven't got a cutting mat underneath here at the moment. It's because I've had to lift everything off. It's not great for the knife, but I'm just going to use this little bit of spare MDF here to try and protect the table underneath. Basically, I'm working on an old dining table, and to protect the surface I've got a piece of vinyl flooring over the top of it. I really can't see what I'm doing here. I can't see what I'm doing. So yeah, I've got a piece of vinyl flooring over the top of it to protect it. I usually have a cutting mat down, but I've had to lift the cutting mat off at the moment because my project is too big for it. So I just need to nibble away at the excess here just so I can get to the piece that I need. I don't want the knife to slip and end up ripping off something that I've already tried to neatly cut around. When I cut off the laser cutter, it always, to save it dropping into the void, it always adds a few little tabs to help hold it in place. So that's what I've got there. It's a little piece of like ornate ironmongery. I think the idea of this is just to add as like a security device on a window to stop people being able to sort of break in. I'm just going to nibble that a little bit of way. This is the moment of truth. It's figured out whether I've actually measured it right. It's funny because when you've got something in your hands and you look across at the bit that it's supposed to go into and they think, oh well, big. And I think actually it might. Yeah, I just need to nibble a little bit off the bottom. Right, that's now perfect. So it's going to need a little bit of glue, top and bottom. So I'm just going to squeeze some super glue onto this spare bit of card I've got here. I'm just going to dip the bottom and the top of this little piece into the glue, which is off camera, I'm afraid you can't see it. And I've got an annoying moment where the tweezers have got stuck to the glue. Okay, can't see it. Good evening, cat, how are you doing? I'll try and just zoom in on that bit. So I've just glued in a little bit of ironmongery there. Now we'll go back to that chimney that I was going to attempt to make. I'm not sure how this is going to play out. We can but try. That little piece that you can just see there is a scrap or a spare of the gateway that I made. Surplus to requirements now. You're not feeling too good, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm feeling I'm making this up now. I'm just going to try and look at my photograph to see my photographic evidence to see what this actually does look like that I'm trying to make. Although time is getting on now, I'm starting to feel a little bit like it's time to go. As you can see in here, I've got a few more little details that I need to add. There's a couple of chimney cowls that I need to make, just need to cut those out. And I'm trying to make a more decorative chimney pot that I've attempted to make some little laser cut pieces to try and help me out here. So yeah, see what I'm going to have to try and do, whether I can achieve it or not. Alright, let's give it a crack, shall we? This is going to be the base, so what I need to do is glue one piece onto another like that. This is where I really needed some activator spray. I have run out again, it always runs out really quickly. And it's quite porous this, so this laser board, so the glue does tend to soak in really quickly. I might actually be better off being patient and using wood glue. As you can see, I bet as soon as I stick it where I don't want it to stick, it'll stick fast. So I'm going to change my mind, like I say, and just switch to wood glue. Where did that go? It's over here. So it'll take a bit longer. At least it shouldn't soak in. Mind you, it's reacting with the super glue a little bit, so that'll help, I suppose. I'm sorry, I'm just having a little bit of a think. What I want now is just a little bit of bamboo stick. I'm just going to cut a piece off. Oh, thank you, Josh. Sorry, nearly missed that. Nice of you to say so. Right, I've just cut off a little bit of bamboo stick here. Try and get the bottoms as flat as possible. It's not always easier to do when you're cutting freehand. This is absolutely an experiment, so it may not work. That's standing up a bit straighter, wider. No, it's not straight at all, is it? It has a slight angle to it. Okay, just bear with me a second, guys. Like I mentioned before, sometimes you can use a piece of rolled up paper to help you make a chimney. And scrap piece, just prop that up a minute. Oh, everything's fallen through. Do you know what I should have done? I should have used the bamboo skewer first. I'll go back. Instead of trying to wrap something around something really, really small, I'm just going to apply it straight onto the paper. Now what I've realised is I've probably cut this a little bit too wide. So just before I carry on with something that's wrong, I'm just going to make it smaller. So I'm trying to look at the source photograph, and I'm doing this without drawings. I'm just kind of making the method up completely freehand off the top of my... It's really quite difficult to peel off the backing of this sometimes as well. This is a self-adhesive sticker paper. It's kind of like performing surgery. It just refuses to separate sometimes. There we go. So I'm very carefully wrapping this paper around the bamboo skewer. Until we've got that kind of shape going on there. What's up, Mary? I'm just going to add a little bit of glue. Super glue this time, just around the edge. Leave that a moment to set, and we'll come back. I think we'll just put that up there a minute. We'll come back to our other piece that I was working on. Just stick that bit up there. I've got a couple of vents that I need to add as well that I've made there. I don't know if I can quickly get a photograph up so I can see where that goes. I bet I can't. Oh, as luck would have it, I've still left Google Earth open. So that goes, yes, that goes up there somewhere. So let me just do this while I'm waiting for that glue to set. I've just cut a tiny little vent out of, I'm going to use wood glue. Wood glue is going to be better for this. I've cut a tiny little vent out of laser ball paint. It's such a small, you're not really going to see much of it. I'll dip that in super glue and solid glue, and it's going to go on the wall kind of here. And it won't come off. There we go. It's just a tiny detail, but it just adds to everything. Now there's a little electrical box thing. The cat's decided to come and play again. Can you see her prowling around the back? Please don't stand on the model. You're going to have to be evicted. Bella. This goes up on the wall up here. Yep. I'm sorry, I'm creaking around here. I'm just having to think. She does like sitting and watching, as long as she doesn't start trying to chew the scenery. I've got distracted, haven't I? I was doing something completely different, then suddenly remembered about this detail. You're fascinated, aren't you, Boo? She's got a bit of a watering eye. It's part of an ongoing condition, in case you were wondering. Not quite caught the glue, so I just need to find a little scrap of something I can try and tease some glue behind it with. She was doing that earlier as well, inspecting. That's caught it. Right, where were we? That glue's now set. I'm just going to actually cut that off as opposed to sliding it off. What do you want, Mary? Has another little cat that's come in to see what's going on. We just entered with slightly white. That's what we're doing here. Now, a combination of wood glue and super glue has a slight same kind of reaction as activator spray. For some reason it just works a bit quicker, so without gluing my fingers to it, I'm just attempting to make a slightly bigger base. focusing very well. I'm sorry, this looks a bit messy, doesn't it, right now? But I haven't got a decent cutting mat to work on. My fingers are getting a bit clogged, so it's not. That's come off a bit. I keep picking up the wrong tools. Anyone see what I've done with the scalpel? There it is. Don't scratch it. Sorry, most of that wasn't on camera because I wandered off a little. It's not worked. What do you want, Mary? Okay, so what I intended to do was to fold these down, but they're snapping instead. There you go. So just have a little rethink in terms of that. I think the bits have gone, so I can't. Have they gone? Is that one? I could see if I could trim it off. Good evening, Dave. And after all that careful trimming out, it's just unfortunate that they've snapped. Like I said, this was a bit of an experiment. I wasn't sure if it was going to work, and in the end it hasn't. Not as I wanted it to anyway. What I'm trying to do is to make an ornate chimney pot, but I think I've given myself an impossible task. Really, this is the sort of thing that you would you'd really need to have 3D printed, perhaps. I'm attempting to construct it out of laser board, so I've cut some pieces, but I think it's going to end up being far too fiddly to achieve. The alternative is to try and sculpt a ball of clay. Or cheat. So that bit wants to go onto there, and I just need a couple of little sort of tiny events, and I can't actually see the... Mary, just give me a minute. Yeah. Yeah, it needs to have a little, like a ball of clay perhaps, put just in the middle, and then I can gouge out the holes. Just having a think. With my thinking, I think what I'm going to do is come back to that. I think I'm going to come back to that, like I say, when I've had to think about how I'm going to reconstruct that, because I don't actually have any air drying clay on me at the moment, which is going to be the best bet of making that. I do have some air drying clay somewhere, but I can't for the life of me find it right now. Oh no, tell a lie. I have a small amount here. So the big question is, can I actually achieve this? And should I attempt to do it tonight when I'm starting to feel really tired? So what I want to do really is just make a small ball of clay that I can then leave for a little while until it's set, to then sort of scribe out the shape that I want. The trick is going to be now making a ball small enough and accurate enough, really. I'm going to try it. I can at least set it off tonight. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of super glue in the top of there, if I can, because the super glue is running out. Oh, it's got gouged up. Now the trick is to try and put this little ball that I've just rolled onto there without distorting it. Now obviously you saw quite a bit of runoff coming off there. That shouldn't be too much of an issue. I might end up sticking it to the table. And now, yeah, I know, Mary, just give me a minute, I'm working on something really fiddly. This This may or may not work. I'm just going to give it a try. So seeing and sticking myself to the table. So I've glued the crown on. So what I need to do now is wait for that little bit of clay that I've stuck in the middle to set. Can you see? And once it has, I can then try and form the kind of shape that I need to. It's just got some vents in the side of it. I just need to gouge out some vents. What I was going to do is try and create that with the, I can't think of the word, the laser cut, but it didn't go quite to plan. It's all come off, so I will have to just leave that, I think, until it's cured a bit better. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I just want to try and blend. No, I can't press onto it, can I? I was going to try and blend some clay into the transition between the pipe and the base, but that might be better, if I'm being honest with myself, being done once it's glued into place. Now I don't want to tempt fate and try and tease holes into the side of that until I'm ready to, but it's taking shape. I think it's kind of worked. And super glue is actually helping it to harden a little. What I want to do is create a bit more transition between the upright pipe and this this base here, but I'll have to wait until it's glued in. So it's kind of taking shape, kind of has worked. We'll just have to see how far we can go with it now. It's 11 o'clock now, or nearly 11 o'clock, so I'm going to call it a night, I think. A bit of wasted clay there, I don't know what to do with that. I think that's about as much as I realistically want to do tonight, because like I say, I'm pretty much on top of stuff. No, that's not right, is it? I'm not on top of stuff. I've gone as far as I can achieve anything tonight without sort of starting to make mistakes. I wanted to try and get onto the wisteria tonight, but I've ended up sort of faffing around with other bits. So it's football tomorrow, so I won't be able to do an awful lot of modelling tomorrow. But hopefully wisteria will be in the next day or two. There's not an awful lot left to do now. Just little details. And just before I go, I'll just try and come in and show you the plant work that I've achieved this evening. Not this evening, this weekend. I don't know if Ray's still there or not. But I've added a leafy plant in that corner there. And I've made some better looking grass. And I've also made the tree, it's removable at the moment because I need to be able to get to the wisteria plant, but at the moment the sort of tree base with the little bush around it goes in there. So I have decided on a smaller tree, but the way I've made it, it doesn't block up too much of the view. That still needs to glue in place, but like I say, it's floating at the moment until I can get the wisteria bush on tree on. Sorry. And I've had a little bit of greenery around here, increase that bush, and we've got some grasses growing there. So all the greenery is now pretty much done apart from the wisteria bush. Just a few little touching up details here and there, and that chimney that I'm just about to try and make is for that bit there. Oops, please don't destroy it, Lee. You've spent ages trying to make that. I've got super glue stuck to my fingers, so that will go. That will go in there. Hello Energy Squishy. So it doesn't look too bad as it is at the moment, but glued in place, I'll just blend some clay around the base of it. So I just need to try and filter some vents into the side of there, and we'll be done. So I can't think of any too much. There was one finishing touch detail I need to put on the gable here, which I've started to make, but I haven't got too far on it. So I'm going to call it a night tonight. Thank you very much for watching. Not too much left to do. I'll definitely finish this week. It'll be definitely finished this week. Alright, see you later guys. Thank you for watching.